Good evening, everybody. Today we meet again to study the block MSW-17, which talks about the contemporary methods of social work and social work values. Today we are going to start with the first block in MSW-17, which is contemporary methods of social work, first part. I will be sharing my screen for your convenience. So we come to this contemporary methods of social work. There are 8 units in this particular block, which talks about the different contemporary uh, methods of social work practice that we generally follow. Starting with the first unit, which talks about advocacy. The second unit talks about linkages of advocacy with other methods of social work, basically talking about how advocacy is linked to other methods. The third unit would be dealing with networking. Fourth is linkage of networking with other units. Fifth unit would be talking about resource mobilization, and then finally, how the resource mobilization can be linked to other methods of social work. So we start with the first unit, which basically talks about the method of advocacy as a method for social work practice. Now, the basic objective of this unit is to understand the nature and meaning of advocacy, the purpose and principles involved in advocacy, objectives of advocacy, and also understand the various strategies that we use for advocacy. Then we are also going to study the beneficiaries. Who are the beneficiaries of advocacy when we are using this as a method? And finally, the skills and the challenges of advocacy when we are using it as the method on social work practice. Now, advocacy, it basically originates from the word advocare, which means call to one's aid. It is, in a short form, it means speaking out on behalf of someone. So basically, here we are representing somebody before mostly, say, maybe a higher authority, or maybe representing someone in the court of law. It is a very deliberate process which is based on demonstrated evidence to directly and indirectly influence the decision makers involving other stakeholders and audiences in order to support the actions which are implemented and contribute to the overall fulfillment of rights of the people. Now, it is a core process for addressing inequality and disparity. So, whenever we have to address inequality and disparities that exist in the society, we definitely turn to this method of advocacy. Now, it is a very powerful method of social work, and it has a very strong practical and theoretical base. We require theoretical knowledge and understanding of models and phases of advocacy, as which enables the social workers to link the contemporary method of advocacy with other methods of social work. And in this way, we can enhance the intervention program with in diverse issues and with several population. Now, this has much original mission of social work had much to do with, standing for the rights of the society's most vulnerable members, which may start from children to homeless people to the physically disabled. And this mission, it remains the same even after so many years since its inception. Now, social workers definitely are required to look after the need of the people of the society and to protect their rights, to protect their, to champion for their rights. They do such thing by means of a lot of by using a lot of means, writing pieces, maybe or articles, lobbying for the people, organizing protests at the local level or national level or even international level. They also help the authorities to change laws which may adversely affect the vulnerable and the disadvantaged members of the society. Now, in today's age, we can say that social workers, they employ a full range of techniques for advocacy, ranging from protests and sit-ins to the using of power of internet and the social media and other network to basically affect change, to bring about change in the society. Now, we will talk about the nature and meaning of advocacy. Now, the term advocacy is different to different people. For a lawyer, advocacy is the art of speaking in the court, basically representing the client's case before the court of law. Social workers also act as advocates for the clients, and basically, it is like presenting their case to the authorities or to the concerned individuals. Often, such interventions may be considered, to bring about positive changes in the life of the people concerned. Now, for example, a village community may be led by an NGO to prevent illegal felling of trees in the nearby forest, and they may do so by challenging, or maybe there can be, things like citizens group who may challenge the authorities for the malpractices or any kind of, corruption in the service delivery system in the local government. So, all of these can be taken as areas in which advocacy can be successfully employed as a method for bringing about change. These actions may not be viewed by activists or professionals representing concerns as advocacy, but it is definitely clear that people will be engaged in different forms of advocacy that could range from quasi legal, okay, to meeting the personal services, even issues in the welfare administration or to the fulfillment of the rights of the specific groups or populations. Now, here we come to the purpose of advocacy. There are several purposes of advocacy work. First of all, it is to prevent human rights violations and promote and safeguard the rights of the people. Second is realizing the constitutional realization of the constitutional safeguards and the fundamental rights of individuals and groups, facilitating the equitable allocation and funding of resources for the welfare and provision of social services and social development. Also, we protect individuals and groups facing any kind of harassment or ill treatment by affecting structural changes in social and political systems and institutions. Now, we promote social inclusion and raise awareness of the barriers faced by the socially excluded groups and communities through advocacy. Also, it helps in supporting and empowering people and groups to speak for themselves, to stand for themselves, okay? Especially also to stand for people who are unable to speak for their own rights, helping people to explore range of optionals which are available to them to fight against oppression and clarifying a particular course of action, and facilitating the process of establishing new policies to tackle social injustice and protect vulnerable groups and populations. So, these are the major purposes of advocacy. Next, we come to the basic principles and objectives of advocacy. So, principles are actually guidelines that help the professionals to fulfill their roles and responsibilities when they are working with clients. The first principle related to advocacy is that it is need based. So we are basically talking about prioritization of action. Okay, when we have to look at the scenario which is the most imminent, or if they are facing any kind of impending danger of exploitation or threat to survival, Then we have to carry out a proper assessment of the vulnerability and see how do we prioritize the needs. Okay, so what do we consider the most important, and we consider that as the requirement for our advocacy. Second is the client directed. That means that professionals have to work on behest of the client. We are basically representing the clients. Okay, we are standing for their rights. We are standing for their welfare. Third is avoid any kind of conflict here. So advocacy may be it may at times lead to a lot of confrontation, maybe with the authorities or some other power who are in charge. And in this case, we have to work for avoiding these kind of conflict situations, because it can be quite draining on part of the professionals as well as the people, and it may also prevent the change process. Okay, it may delay the change process, and therefore any kind of conflict needs to be avoided when we are working with the concept of advocacy. Then there has to be some kind of a cultural sensitivity. So we need to understand the linguistic, we need to understand the cultural and maybe religious sensitivities of the people whenever we are standing for advocacy work. And this needs to be taken into consideration once the once this they we are actually working with the client. This needs to be taken into consideration. Then duty of care, it is basically the duty of the professionals to avoid such actions that are illegal or may cause any impending and significant harm to the client. So we have to take this into consideration, that any kind of confrontational mode of protest and campaigning may be totally avoided, which may present the group to some imminent danger or any kind of a difficult situation. Avoid conflict of interest. This is because the position that we enjoy as a social worker is one of the frontline leaders in advocacy or in campaigns that we are heading. So definitely there may be a number of conflict of interest that may arise. So violating this basic principle may lead to disastrous consequences. Okay, and therefore a visible conflict of interest may create doubts in the minds of the clientele or the population, and that is why any kind of conflict of interest needs to be avoided by the professional. Next is the critical thinking. It is often said that the critical thinking, in terms of structures, is essential to locate and identify the forces at work that sustain an oppressive and exploitative system. So, critical analysis of the whole socioeconomic outcomes and collective injustices, that is important. We need to be able to actually endorse this critical thinking in our day-to-day work, and which is this is one very important situation, because because locating the forces of oppression that are deep rooted within social and political system has to be identified and challenged. Okay, and also people need to be removed from situations of injustices. So this critical thinking, critical appraisal of the problem is specifically very important for the professionals. Empowerment as sustainable change. So we need to understand that the client's capacity and their opportunity to change and address their own needs to be taken into consideration. Empowerment is a process that should be given and that should be considered, and needs to be adopted. This approach needs to be adopted so that we can give them, we can help them taking up the cause, for themselves, and voicing their concerns. Next is basically here. Next is identifying and challenging systemic flaws and institutional behaviors. So, any systemic flaws that we see, okay, any systemic flaws that we see flaw, sorry, I mean any systemic flaw or any fault that we see that may be, giving rise to such injustices and any institutional barriers which may sustaining exploitation and oppression needs to be identified and challenged when we are dealing with this whole concept of advocacy. Limited use. Rampant use of advocacy to solve all types of problems may not be a very, practical solution. So we have to actually see what are the areas where, we can use advocacy which would take care of the situation or which will actually address the problem, specifically domains like personal or quasi-personal relationships, like marriage issues or marital conflicts, family conflicts, neighborhood issues, may not be very good domains to use um, our um, may not be very suitable for using this method. Then is establishment of social justice. Mostly, advocacy should be used for spreading the social justice, which involves a deep sensitivity to the needs of all people, but most especially to the needs of the poor, specifically those who are oppressed and those who are disenfranchised. So it embraces a very global perspective that injustice to one is injustice to all. And in this way, we see that the overall goal of advocacy should be establishment of a just social order. Then networking and collaborative initiatives. So this networking and collaborative initiatives should be done with the similar like-minded organizations or people's group or forums, so that this advocacy method can be made more impactful, it can be made more effective, and more people can be brought under the under the ambit of this method. So this networking between individuals, between groups and communities, between the general public, organizations, maybe advocacy organizations or NGOs and other forums, is very important, so that we may become a force to reckon with. Then we come to the objectives of advocacy. Now, there are several objectives and outcomes which may be related to advocacy. First is obtaining services and resources that would not otherwise be provided. So, at times, we do find that there may be certain resources or maybe some services which are not being given to the people, and that is why advocacy is required, so that that may be done. Preventing and protecting the vulnerable individuals and populations from abuse and oppressions of any kind. Okay. Third is modifying or influencing the policies or practices that adversely affect the groups and communities. So we need to understand and also recognize these practices which are actually further disenfranchising a population. And we need, once we recognize this, we need to address these issues and see how it can be changed to prevent this kind of a happening. And finally, promoting the legislation or policies that will result in the provision of requisite resources or services. Now, there are several strategies of advocacy that may be followed, or which may have been found essential by activists and advocacy organizations. First strategy is evidence gathering. So whatever we need to change, whatever practice we need to change, we need to collect the data and the evidences, so that we may be able to highlight this fault, and also check the extent of violations of human rights. We see the plight of the destitute and neglected. Okay. And this may be used when we are taking any kind of a legal action against the authorities. Second is basically filing representation. Here we are dealing with speaking, writing, or acting on behalf of the clients. Then scaling up reach is basically broadening the support base. what is known as globalization, that is from going local to global level. So we basically try and increase awareness or sensitization of other people regarding the issue. Then volunteer mobilization, which is basically mobilizing of the cause, okay, bringing about civic engagement and the like. Then leadership building, recognizing the local leadership, realizing the local leadership, and identifying individuals who may further lead uh, the movement. Then fund mobilization for large scale advocacy campaigns. So we need funds for bringing about campaigns, for organizing campaigns, and that is why we need fund mobilization. Highlighting issues in the media and electronic advocacy. So basically, using the social media for highlighting our issues, and also making it more and more, you can say, known to the people. And then is the organization building, that is developing the network of individuals at the grassroots level. And then we have networking and coalition formation. So we network with other like-minded organizations, with network with civil society, with forums, with other maybe even authorities, in order to expand our network and form coalitions so that this work can be carried out more and more efficiently. Then seeking legal awareness and legal redress. So we have to file cases in appropriate courts, file public interest litigation if required. Then also demonstration, carrying out demonstrations and agitations, sit-ins, rallies, whatever is required, and using various forums to highlight the issues. The forums in any assembly designated to discuss issues, basically regulations, rules, public matters, laws, or differing opinions. So these are any such assembly which may be used to discuss all of these matters. They could be in the form of public hearings, or they could be in the form of agency board meetings, supervisory sessions, and the like. Then also going for policy advocacy, that is advocating for policy changes, where we establish new policies, we lobby for the enactment of new laws or legislations, and make changes in the existing one. And finally, it is balanced resource allocation, that is open and fair. So going for a resource allocation that is balanced, that take cognizance of all the other aspect of the work that we are doing. Now, who are the beneficiaries of advocacy? Now, it is an active promotion of a cause or a principle. We have already seen that. It may be used either for such clients who may not be in a position to fight for their own rights, or participate in the process of redressing their difficulties. So, basically, people who do not have a voice of their own due to their lack of, resources, due to lack of knowledge, or maybe people under different difficult circumstances, like child laborers, children who have been abused in any manner, the elderly, terminally ill patients, mentally ill patients, or such patients which have been facing severe traumatic experiences. It could also be bonded laborers, or women facing domestic violence, tribals living in remote areas, and minorities facing social exclusion. All of these can be included as beneficiaries of advocacy. Next is the skills of advocacy. What are the skills that are involved for advocacy work? Now, the advocacy can be done at the micro level as well as the macro level. So, it's basically um, we would say that going for actions like representation, influencing and use of forums to bring about specific changes. Okay, then policy analysis, group facilitation, public mobilization, communication, competency in negotiation, analysis of multidimensional and systematic informations. All of these are the different you can say skills that may be used by social workers in order to use advocacy as a method in social work practice. Then we come to the challenges faced when we are using advocacy as a method. Now, there are a lot many, you can say, challenges which we may face as social workers who are using advocacy or who are working as advocates for a particular issue. Now, first of all, we have that there are a lot of barriers because some of this lack of appropriate attitudes, which often inhibit professionals for using advocacy work as a method of social work intervention. Like advocacy can be too demanding on time, energy, and finances. And definitely, when social workers they want to change local, state, or national policies and laws, they do not. They often do it in their free time, using their personal leave and pay for travel and other out-of-pocket costs. You know, for themselves. Now, generally, it is also is a general misconception that advocacy is of it often adopts a confrontationist approach, which prevents social workers for using them more often. But this is not the case. At times, it is also perceived as risking important and necessary collaborative relationships, because of lack of employer support for the same. When the state or the powerful elites they start to adopt arm twisting techniques, and hence the risk of losing one's job may be very eminent. Or advocacy work and advocacy actions they heavily depend on working with multiple stakeholders and coalition partners, and at times an expensive network has strength in terms of numbers, but it may face challenges in equal measures as opposed to closed consensual processes. In smaller and local networks, policy issues in a larger national level and groups may often face contestation between multiple competing groups. Now, moreover, it turns out to be a very tedious exercise where there are a number of innumerable preconditions for the sustenance and success. And in terms of building consensus and trust among members and partners, it again may become very tedious. There are a lot of issues related to logistics and coalition, which becomes too large, and it becomes taxing to organize such meetings or communicate with the upcoming activities. Among the different stakeholders. Now, then again, it is an activity which requires a lot of patience, tenacity, compromise, long term commitment, also requires a lot of energy and broad basis of support, research skills, political skills, knowledge of the government and its working, capacity to analyze, and these are some of the challenges which are posed before individual social workers or volunteers or even collaborating agencies when they are using advocacy as a method in social work practice. So these are some of the challenges that we will find are often come up. These often come up when social workers are trying to use advocacy as a method in social work practice. So this was all about the first unit where we talk about the concept of advocacy. After this, we talk about the second unit, which is linkage of advocacy with other methods of social work. So here we will be linking it with other methods like social casework, social group work, community organization, how we can use or link advocacy with social welfare administration, social work research, and social action. So basically, how we can link advocacy with the primary as well as the secondary methods of social work. We will also be looking into the networking and advocacy part, awareness campaigns and advocacy, PIL and resource mobilization, strengths based practice, all of these, and see how they link with advocacy. I will just take a moment before I resume the classes. Can you please give me a break for 2 minutes? Okay. So, after discussing this, we will go to the next unit, as we have said. So, our first topic here is linking social casework and advocacy. So, case advocacy is acting on behalf of a client. Okay, so basically, here we will advocate the cause of a person or the client who has come to us for any kind of intervention or help. And this is basically could be in terms of individual, it could be in terms of family or a group of individuals, in order to access needed resources, services, or to influence policy change. Now, here we have to keep in mind the client consent, that is, ensure that the client has given his or her consent and involvement in the process. They need to be closely involved in the process. Additional end goals should be client empowerment and assertiveness taught through modeling. We have to ensure that the clients, they are able to stay assertive, and also generally, since we are working as most vulnerable and oppressed populations, we need there is uh, most likely that we would be working for people who are in need of the services of an advocate, since they cannot stand up for themselves. Now, advocacy falls along a continuum of involvement and commitment and knowledge needed for effective case advocacy. This would include agencies, policies, regulations, and administrative structure. Then, second, agencies' appeal procedures, available legal remedies. If there are any other, what are the available legal remedies that we can seek? Then, agencies' formal and informal power structure. We also have to see the external forces that the organizations respond to and the consequences for the clients as well as other stakeholders if the issue is escalated. The purpose of advocacy when we are working with clients is to promote human rights violation, prevent human rights violations, sorry, and promote people's right. Also, realization of constitutional safeguards and fundamental rights, facilitating the equitable allocation and funding of resources, protecting individuals and groups who are facing harassment and ill treatment, promoting social inclusion, and raising awareness of the barriers faced by these groups which are excluded, supporting and empowering people and groups to be able to speak for themselves, and also helping people to explore the range of options which is available to them, And finally, facilitating the process of establishing new policies to tackle social injustice and protect vulnerable people, groups and populations. So, this is all about the purposes of advocacy when we are working with dealing with cases. Then here we come to the social group work and advocacy. So we know that social group work is a method in social work that attempts to address and solve the problems faced by individual clients through groups. And this underlying assumption is that the group it provides a forum to each individual members to interact and share as well as understand oneself in relation to others in order to assess their personal strengths and weaknesses. So here we try to develop close bonding, planning, and acting together for achieving the shared goals. The social worker here is responsible to facilitate this whole process of group formation and also making the people or the group to act to achieve the shared goals of the group. Now, the power of the group to influence individuals' minds is quite enormous, and we have already seen. And as part of the social group work, one of the types of groups that social workers are expected to form and work with are advocacy groups. So, advocacy groups in the context of advocacy work are such groups that are formed of individuals who might have been the target of human rights violations, discrimination, or stigma and exclusion. So, be it the state or the state agencies, social institutions, social groups, or families, and advocacy work with such groups, it focuses on building the awareness of rights and entitlements, also legal recourse available, and the processes involved in seeking the justice. So, main the purpose of advocacy work through the group work is to orient the group to recognize injustices or violations and any barriers to seeking justice, and it thus engages the group in the practice of human rights and social justice to promote the social well-being of the people overall. Now, advocacy work it needs to reach out to promote the work of the advocacy groups, and here we need to understand that the professional social worker has to play a very important role in this whole process. It needs to the whole work it needs to reach out to promote um, uh, the overall well-being of the groups and also benefit the local people and communities in a more realistic manner. Now, for example, there may be certain, certain advocacy of the groups. For example, now there are certain examples that have been provided over here to understand the how this advocacy can be work along with the group work method. For example, the environmental advocacy groups. They are important in shaping public perceptions relating to the environmental problems. So these are important examples of basically using the social group work in and advocacy together. Then community organization and advocacy. Now, community organization, as we all know, um, it lays emphasis on the need for the community as a whole and its institutional individual members to be united in spirit, possess cooperative and collaborative attitudes and identification with the community, take interest and participate in the affairs of the community, also share common values and goals, and develop a sense of responsibility for the condition and status of the community. Now, community organizing should move to practice. There are a lot of different varied viewpoints relating to where the the community organization needs to focus. And this is basically with uh, we and also we know that the community organization is also a primary method of the social work practice. And the since modern societies have empowered the state in the governance of the citizens, the hold of the state has become more pronounced. This we are seeing in all areas of life. This is where governance and ineffective implementation of administration of policies, these problems come up. And where these problems come up, this is also the area or the part where the advocacy work becomes very much relevant. Now, this can be used to provide respite to the people from such practices, malpractices or corrupt practices, or problem of non-implementation of development programs or other flaws which may be related to these practices. Now, these will such corrupt practices will affect the quality of services provided by the service providers, and this can be seen in so many areas. Whether we are talking about child health or child protection, or we are talking about gender related issues, or the health aspects, educational services, so on and so forth. Now, that is why advocacy work, it helps the community to claim for its due share of entitlements and fulfillments of the community needs, especially in the rural settings. After this, we come to the social welfare administration and advocacy. Now, social welfare administration is typically referring to the conceiving, planning, developing, mobilizing, organizing, coordinating, and delivering of the human services. So, social work administration is different from public administration or other forms of delivery of social services, in the sense that while conceiving or delivering these services to the people who need them, it uses the basic values and principles of social work profession. So basically, the specific principles of social casework, social group work, community organization, and social action, and the ethical codes of professional social work. Okay, so it may take cognizance of all of these different aspects. So the delivery of services, whether universal services or targeted services, they are aimed at building the capacities of the people. They are also involved in the application of rational problem solving techniques and evidence based methodologies to conceiving, developing, coordinating, and delivering the services, human services. So social planning, it becomes an important process here, which is used to involve people at the grassroots level in the identification of needs and also voicing their concerns that affect them and include them in the projects and programs to be developed. So we know that advocacy at the community level can be used for all these, different uh, different stages. Now, advocacy work as social work method in relation to social work administration would therefore be concerned with making potential services users aware of their rights to basic and quality service. Also, it will help them train in making a proper assessment of the services provided by the government machinery, building their ability to monitor the implementation of various government programs, and raising issues of quality and other ineffective service delivery with the concerned authorities. Then we come to the concept of social action and advocacy. Now, initial focus of social work profession till 30s and 40s, 1930s and 40s, was basically the therapeutic paradigm. We were talking about therapeutic paradigm to address our personal problems, mostly related to relationships or the mental health problems, and basically how however, in 1950s, we saw the emergence of a new paradigm in social work practice that was committed to the uh, establishing of social justice through social action. And this was a new paradigm in social work that arose, and this resulted in the evolution of the other traditional social work methods that emphasize its client advocacy perspective. That is how we see that these two are related to each other. And also, one understands that it's not always that people who are faced with such uh, okay. Okay, another thing is that we need to understand that not always all people, will be faced with such problems and issues, and most of them, many of them, will be able to seek their rights and justice. After that, there are certain categories of clients which may be quite befitting to, work, to work with them in this regard, like child laborers, bonded laborers, trafficked girls and women, sexually abused children, girls and women, prisoners and girls and women sexually abused children, or offenders facing trial and living in rather deplorable conditions, or even the refugees who are mentally ill or mentally challenged. So all of these are some examples of individuals that may be, or clients that may be used, or that may be used to work or involved in this perspective. Now, professional social workers who are using advocacy work can affect changes in governance of welfare at institutions and delivery systems. However, it is very difficult to organize disempowered and fragmented groups, and social action is a method is more appropriate where the issues faced by the communities and uh, uh, you know where the issues faced with the communities are in relatively larger scale, okay, than that faced by a single community. And thus we see that uh, any kind of outcome resolution at the community level, okay, it requires this sustaining this method for a longer period of time. And now, in this regard, we will find that a number of movements were started on the behest of the advocacy groups referred to as the external agents of change. And members of such group would fight for the cause of others, are often represented by the elite and the intellectual classes, like could be lawyers, they could be political leaders, and the likes. And advocacy done by the external agents, like intellectual elites or lawyers, political leaders, they can also be, carry out such methods. Now, after that, we come to social work research and advocacy. Now, basically, advocacy, social work research and advocacy is just a minute. Okay. Okay, so this is just a repetition of what we have already studied. Then we come to networking and advocacy. So, in order, if we want to make our advocacy effective and achieve the goals and objectives that we have taken into consideration, then we have to, um, work at different levels to network with individuals or groups or communities or masses. And this would be worthwhile to introduce Woolcock's distinction of the various types of networks, which can be in the form of bonding or bridging and linking networks. Now, social work practitioners are um, okay. So, social work practitioners are definitely expected to be involved in networking of individuals at the community or the local level. And since this facilitates the development of strong bonds among the members of the network, which further alienate the um, uh, involvement of networks and other individuals in the process. Now we know that bonding is a social adhesive that promotes solidarity, trust, and confidence, and bridging creates a social adhesive that promotes intergroup um, um, connectedness and expanded configurations of trust. And bridging networks basically are essential in cases of issues and problems that cut across communities and diverse social groups. Now, another classification indicates the types of network as horizontal and the vertical networks. So, horizontal networks, they comprise of individuals and groups at the local level who are living in contiguous area and similar living conditions and situations. And when we talk about this concept of social capital, we mean these networks who are all often called as the bonding social capital, in which a strong bond exists between the members of the groups. And after this, we come to the awareness campaign and advocacy, how they are related to each other. Um, Now, the success story of advocacy, it would depend upon the extent on the creation of public opinion in society on issues of injustice, oppression, deprivation, okay, and any now, there have been a few campaigns that have benefited the public in general and specific population in particular, like campaigns about the plight of the HIV people, or you know, um, like awareness campaigns relating to smoking and gutka, banning these tobaccos and other such products. Okay, and then also we can say that there could be other things, like for example talking about banning the smoking in public places and the government and the sale of tobacco, for example. Then they may also be related to things like um, um, things on a similar scale. Now, then there are a number of media-oriented advocacy awareness campaigns also, which are involved in multiple areas of work and strategies. Okay, and they would include preparing news, releasing releases and placing stories, commissioning photographs or a video, and designing 2.0 technologies to assist with the data, gathering, coalition building, and mobilization. Now, Advocacy can also be done at various levels. So it can be done at the personal level and raising issues related to basically the daily life of people, like maybe perhaps concerning gender discrimination or age-related issues, child abuse, elder abuse, etc. There can be so many such issues like this. Okay, they could be related to community level, um, and um, then sometimes we will find that advocacy and lobbying efforts, they are sometimes overlooked when planning awareness campaigns is going on, and this can be vital in ensuring ongoing support from the governments and the civil society organization. And after this, we come to the concept of public interest litigation and advocacy. You would just read this part where we are discussing about advocacy in detail with respect to other areas. Then we come to the concept of public interest litigation and advocacy. Now, what exactly public interest litigation is? Now, litigation is quite an important advocacy strategy which is available to advocates around the world, and it may be used to clarify and fill the gaps in legislation and also to promote and protect the human rights of individuals as well as groups. So, when used appropriately, PIL can broadly impact the value, the law by challenging the existing legal interpretations which do not conform to the international human rights standards or the rule of law. And here we will find that a major channel of providing help and direct justice to the groups, or including and including uh, those who are facing any kind of economic exploitation or torture or any kind of harassment, these may be included in the public interest litigation, or um, their side of the problem may be included in the public interest litigations. Now, um Now, there can be also other problems like environmental pollution, degradation of natural wealth, food adulteration, etc., which can be, you know, uh, which can be taken up through the PIL. And generally, it is found that the vulnerable people who have been the target of, various forms of exploitation, it's a vulnerable people who have been the target of these exploitation. And when such social ills are found to be widespread, it is the responsibilities of the public and the literate, conscious people to basically advocate for their rights. And this is where the PIL comes into the picture. Now, here we talk about resource mobilization and advocacy. Now, resource mobilization, it refers to all activities involved in securing new and additional, uh, you know, um, resources for organization, and it also involves making better use of and maximizing the existing resources. So resource mobilization is an essential method in social work that brings to life a whole range of intervention initiatives and programs. And we will find that we require resources for a couple of work that we have to carry out. They can be needed for different set of clients or for the context of a particular problem. Maybe uh, like say for example, problems related to the individuals or families or groups or communities, then these could be the resources needed for different sets of clients, or in the context of a particular problem it may be either tangible or intangible. So it could be something like, could be cash or money, or it could be something more intangible, like assistance, technical assistance, or any kind of cooperation which we give to the clients. Now, resource mobilization process, it may follow certain steps and categorization, keeping in view the need of the agency and the targeted audiences. And advocacy have been proved as important, organization mechanism among the mechanisms of resources. Now, for example, here we have been given an example that good governance of NGOs is the issue, which is um, generally raised by the external donor agencies. And if any NGO or an NGO federation, it makes the issue of good governance its issue and program, then the donor agencies would provide the resources to these organizations. And Indian agencies, NGOs, we know that they have been mobilizing government resources by making the basically individuals um, issues and priorities there programmed, while they are also been mobilizing the local resources by incorporating the local issues as well. So thus we see that social workers are most frequently, they have to become the voice for change and social justice, and the strategies and techniques that could be used and have been found essential by activists and advocacy organizations, of which fund mobilization is very important for the large scale advocacy campaign. So basically, how do you utilize or gather the funds? Now, after that, we come to the concept of strengthening based practices and advocacy. Strengths based practice is basically a collaborative process between the person supported by services and those supporting them, allowing them to work together to determine an outcome that draws on the person's strength, okay, and assets. And also it is basically an approach in which governs the way we think about people and the way we go together about we go about our work on a daily basis for all actions and interactions. Now, after that, we come to the next topic after social action and advocacy, that is the concept of networking as a method of social work. How networking is important method in social work practice. Why do we require networking? What are the major essentials of networking and functionings of a network method, including the types of networks? So we will find here that networking involves a number of things. It could mean a number of things, like involving building relationship with other professionals who share your areas of interest. Okay, it could be about networking about visibility, creating your own community and building affluences, then alliances. Then networking about is about searching for opportunities to work together and other towards the achievement of mutual goals. Then it is also about asking someone for a job, like it could be about developing contact, uh, you know building and long term relationships. And most jobs, they come from people who know you and your skills. And finally, we may say that networking is not a one way street, but definitely it is a two-way street. Okay, so we have to be more proactive. So these are basically some of the important. So these are some of the basic definitions of networking. Now, also, networking has been consistently identified as a number or way to find a new job or exchange of information or services among individuals, groups, or institutions. Now, according to the dictionary, definition, networking is a supportive system of sharing information and services among individuals and groups having some common types of common interest. So these are the various, you can say that these are the various um, ways in which, networking can be defined. Next, we come to the importance of networking. Now, networking, it definitely helps the professionals to establish contact with other people and institutions. Okay. After this, we come to the importance of networking. Now, networking helps professionals to establish contact with other people related to other fields, and now, here we will understand that apart from establishing, contacts with other people and institutions, um, generally, it can also be used to, for by the social workers to seek membership in different national and international associations. So we can say that these networks that are found, these can work very well, after social, these may be very much useful for the social workers to, tackle situations like HIV/AIDS, which is more of a global, pandemic, which has become more of a global pandemic, and the much needed support to the group members. It may give this support to the group members. Then, we can also say that social workers, they seek membership in different national and international associations, and also they come in contact with other professional. So through network, a social worker can make connections and endure, um, you know um mutually beneficial relationships with other members of the same community. And also, we see that sometimes social workers may seek membership in different methods and, international associations who will come in contact with the other professionals. Now, these networks can go a long way in mutually benefiting the, having a mutually benefiting relationship with the social worker, and this can be used to further the cause of the uh, further the cause of the uh, this issue. Now, why is networking important in the first place? So it is important because vast majority of job openings are never advertised. Mostly we have to look in for, situations, different work situations, or job openings, through we have to obtain these through references. And this can be very important, when we are talking about the when we are talking about the hidden, job market, or then generally, okay, we also say that networking is, okay, sorry, it may also be referred to as networking also critical for our professional growth also. So we may find ourselves, connected with people who are having like-minded or having a similar interest, like us. Also, networking can help us improve our social skills so that we are able to relate to others in a variety of setting. And in this way, by developing the long-term relationship for mutual gain, we also make a lasting impression with people. So these are the various, you can say that, importance of the networking. Now, various objectives is basically establishing contact with people and experts, also arranging professional support for collaborative endeavors, the social work intervention to mobilize resources of varying nature, could be financial, it could be material, technical, other, etc., to enable the growth and development of the professional social work, and finally, for the exchange of professional knowledge and experience among the professionals. Now, why? What are the reasons that we network? There are five reasons basically to form network. One is that it provides good opportunity. Okay, that is uh, um, this gives us very good opportunity to meet new people and uncover our own qualities. Also, it gives a lot of exposure to people. So when we are starting a new practice, or maybe writing out research, or networking provides good opportunities to expose others to the wealth of professional knowledge. Then contacts and relationship. So it's basically helps us to expand our contacts and build up the relationship. Then finding a common ground. That means that everyone enjoys the company of others who are like-minded. Okay, and then finally um, then we also come to the last part, that is the learning part. That is, we just are able to gather a lot of information, out of networking. Then we come to the essentials of networking. What are the essential requirements? First is building the database. We should be able to actually build the database, so that we are able to basically identify the institutions and people whom we can network with. Second is building sustainable relationships. How do we formulate relationships? You know Building sustainable relationships, how we can formulate relationships which are more sustainable in nature, which are there for a longer period of time. Then communication, open channels of communication between different um, uh, institutions, or between members. And in the process of networking, communication facilitates the people to share their experiences. It will help them to support each other, to make decisions, okay, and also work together to help the people in need. Then effective communication among and between people depends on the quality of relationship. So if we are having a good communication, that means that we are having a good relationship with the individual. And when this communication is somehow not clear, or it's having some kind of any a constraint or any barrier to communication, then we will find that this relationship between individuals is likely to um, uh, you know uh, maybe um, also affected. Then mutual development and support. It's basically about helping each other, okay, and it will begin with helping, understanding, and learning. And through networking, one can help by helping others. Networking, it also gives us an opportunity to learn new skills and gain knowledge by interacting with others. Also, it gives kind of shared confidentiality, that is preservation of secret. So we would say that it becomes very you may say that confidentiality is based on the basic right of the client, which is an ethical obligation of the case worker, basically to keep the information confidential. And so we find that most of the problems, they are generally known and shared among close family members. And keeping in view the value of cultural sensitivity, the aspect of shared confidentiality is very important. And this may be, uh, this keeping in view the value of the cultural sensitivity and the aspect of shared confidentiality, we must recognize and facilitate this concept of confidentiality. Then we come to the functions of a network method. So what are the functions? First is opening doors to variety of resources inside and outside the profession, widening the support to the client system. So it helps to widen the support. Then also it helps in facilitating the in ensuring quality based social work education. So networking can facilitate definitely exchange of information and focus on quality based social work education, because basically we know that social work associations and schools of social work, they generally they would be highlighting issues, challenges, and strategies for enhancing the quality social work education in the country. And then there is this ensuring quality based social work education. This was the last point in this regard. Then we come to the types of networks that exist. So first is the formal network, which is basically a group of professional people, which is designed to promote networking among its members. Second would be informal network, that is the personal relationships that people have that develop over a period of time. And third is the internal network. So the professional relationships and the development, development uh, contacts developed in the workplace, they can be referred to as the internal network. Okay, so networking in the same organization or in the same school or and can be termed as the can be termed as excuse me, just a moment. Now, so this formal network we have done is basically professional grouping. Informal network is basically the professional relationship that one has developed over a period of time. Internal network is basically professional relationships and contact developed in the workplace. So when we are having a relationships within the workplace in the same organization, that is the internal network. And the external network is basically the developed contacts which are developed outside the workplace. Now, there are, according to Hermania Ibarra, there are three types of professional networks that he talks about. One is the operational network, that is, which network with the people one directly work with to get one's job done. Second is the personal network. These are the well explained. Personal networks are well explained with the examples of alumni professionals, social and affinity groups. Then third is the strategic networks. These are basically maintaining contacts with the peers and the senior people in one's professional field. And this is again very important for professional development, because it's important for sharing ideas about practices, about learning new approaches. Now, Then we come to the approaches and models of networking in the social work. So, what are the various approaches and models? First is a social networking sites. Now, we know that with the advancement of IT or information technology, the communication pattern has drastically progressed and changed. And we see that the distance and the national boundaries are no more any barrier to communication. Why? Because internet is there, which has proved to be an effective means of communication, giving a platform for the to the people to connect, from different parts of the globe. So this is one important aspect. The second is the seminar, conferences, or workshops. After that comes a conference and seminar and workshops. Now these are basically, you may say that these are networks. These are a number of ways which may be used by the professionals to network in different areas of social work. Like it could be in the area of women and child health or welfare, youth welfare, and old age, and other such issues. Now, some of these organizations are National Association of Social Workers, for Professional Social Workers, APSWE, and many more. So these organizations, they also provide an adequate to provide an opportunity to network with each other by conducting seminars and conferences for the members. And after this, we come to the networking of schools of or schools of social work. This is basically, we know that schools of social work can play a very effective role in networking with different stakeholders. Okay, and we can collaborate with different non-governmental organizations or governmental organizations, as well as the internal organizations working in the area of social development. So these are they have given an example of these different organizations. You can just go through this. After this, we come to the linkage of networking with other methods of with social work. How can you linkage the networking with other methods? So definitely, networking can be clubbed with other methods of social work so that the work can be made more efficient. It can be, planned in a more, time-bound manner. Decisions can be taken, maybe quickly. Also, more and more information can be collected so that the client, in whatever respect, okay, be it individual, be it family, or be it groups, they can uh, you can say that they may be um, basically helped in a more fast track manner. So, for example, when we are dealing with social casework, networking becomes important. For example, any kind of a services that we are providing to the client, that can be made more, easier when we are approaching through different networks, or we are approaching to provide those services through different networks. So, definitely, it makes our work more and more, fast. Then we come to the social casework, and after social casework, we come to the social group work. Again, group work is intervening in at the group level, and here also we can say that networking also helps us to fast track the work that we are dealing with groups. Okay. Now, in the process of forming self-help group, professional social worker makes meaningful interventions by, social meaningful intervention by building good networking with the village authorities and the target groups. So this basically helps to get more and more resources, increase the impact on larger number of people, and that is why we use these networking between financial institutions or government agencies and departments, between local market and traders, between different uh, different institutions, to provide services to the group that we are working with. So this definitely motivates and facilitates the groups, these groups, which may be self-help groups or any other group that we are targeting. Then is the community organization and networking. Now, even for community organization, networking is a very important, work method that we can employ, because for community work also we need help from a number of institutions. Whatever problem the community is facing, we need to have a good understanding of the available resources. And once we have networking with different agencies, then our work becomes all the more important. It also helps us to fast track our intervention plan in the community. It helps us to include more and more people, with the work into the work, and also get a lot of information disseminated to people. Social welfare administration and networking is against when you is again the same thing. When you are working as a social welfare administrator, then you have to actually um, see that the administration is able to provide the services to the people, and social agencies they trans the social agencies they are able to actually help the administration, and the administration in turn is able to provide services to various at various levels. So they since social welfare agencies play a very uh, you know pivotal role in development, and that is why networking has a very important role in social welfare administration. After this, we come to the social action and networking. Now, social action is an individual, group, or a community effort within the framework of social work philosophy. And this practice aims at achieving the social progress to modify social policies and improvise the social legislation and health and welfare services. So, obviously, networking would definitely help in increasing the effectiveness of social action, okay, to bring about the desired changes, okay, and also um, helping involving a larger number of people for a particular cause. So, when we are actually networking, we are able to have this. When we are networking, we are able to actually, um, improvise the services that we give during this social action method. And definitely it makes our work easier, and you can say that it also becomes a kind of a situation where people learn from one example, and they are able to actually do the same thing, or you can say that they are able to actually utilize the learnings from these actions, the social action, and then again use it for their own good. Then social work research and networking. Now, of course, we know that any systematic investigation of the problem, this is something which helps, which is done through the social work research. And networking is definitely required when we are undergoing this research work, because we have to link with or network it with agencies, so that we are able to find proper funding agencies. We are able to disseminate the um, our learnings, through these networking. Also, a lot of help and other support can be uh, given by these partner agencies when we are actually using networking for our social work research. So it is basically very much relevant, we can say, in all the methods that we are using. And these methods are, again, they are not used singularly. Many a times we have to actually, or you can say that they are not compartmentalized, they cannot be compartmentalized. Many a times we have to actually use these methods in combination with other methods, so that, for a particular cause we can use advocacy, and at the same time we can use networking. We can use community organization work, and at the same time we can use the method of advocacy. So all of these methods, they actually go hand in hand, they cannot be compartmentalized. And when we are looking at these methods, we have to um, actually use them in combination with other methods. Then there are again a lot of similar important alliance made between awareness campaigns and networking. Awareness campaigns are basically designated, they are designed to educate the public about specific issues. So when we are, you know, networking along the similar lines with like-minded institutions, then these awareness campaigns can be made more vocal. These can be, disseminate the information related to this campaign can be disseminated to a larger audience. And you can say that our campaigns can be made more effective at the same time. So definitely networking and awareness campaigns, they go hand in hand. Then public interest litigation and networking. This is again important, because you can have people or organizations or groups, they come together, they form a forum or a network, and then they can file a PIL. And in this case, this is basically, it's kind of it kind of a relief that is sought, through this for the general public through this PIL. And this networking can be used to further the impact of PIL, how they can use this to take up their case, to make the demands look more justified. It can also be made more known to the public, to the wider public. Basically, what do they intend to do through this PIL? So that is why we can say that this public interest litigation and networking, they definitely go hand in hand. This is the same case with resource mobilization and networking. So whenever we are looking about getting resources for our work, or contacting the grants, granting funding agencies, or those who are giving us with any kind of a technical or other help, then definitely networking can be a method which can improvise the search for such agencies. Not only that, it can also help us get speedy assistance from agencies. Why? Because we are given information about these organizations who are willing to fund or provide any kind of a technical support for the work. So, networking definitely improves our chances for resource mobilization, improves our chances to get funding, and in the sense, it can, improve the overall cooperation between the various, organizations. Now, strengths based practice and networking is again strength based practice is basically concentrating on the inherent strength of the individuals or groups, okay, and organizations so that they are able to basically fight for themselves, to stand up for themselves, to speak out for themselves. And this is being recognized as one of the contemporary method in social work practice. And this is very much goes well with networking, because with this approach we can improve the self-care abilities, we can increase their confidence and self-esteem, and social workers, they can also network with organizations to pool in resources. We can also, to help the clients, to provide them with training and capacity building measures, okay. And this in this way we can say that a lot of challenges can be overcome, and a lot of facilitation can be done in view of this networking and the strength based perspective. Now, after this, we come to the next topic, which is resource mobilization as a method of social work. Now, we know that resource mobilization basically means finding resources for our to carry out our work. Now, these resources, they can be tangible or they can be non-tangible. For example, they could be cash, it could be cash or funds that we are talking about, and at the same time, it could also be some knowledge. Dissemination, or maybe some help in terms of some technical help or expertise that we can get from any other institution. So definitely resource mobilization can be talked about as the process that involves identifying people share um, the same values as your organization and take steps to manage that relationship. And resource mobilization is actually a process that involves three integrated concepts, which is organizational management and development, communicating and prospecting, and relationship building. So these three things will definitely be involved in this concept of resource mobilization. Now, now, there are certain principles related to the concept of resource mobilization. First is that it is just a means to an end. Okay, it is a means through which we fulfill certain vision of the organization. It is also a team effort. It has to be a team effort. It is difficult for a single person to carry out, but when it is done as a team, then it becomes easier. The responsibility for the resource mobilization effort is shared by the board, okay. And also, um, organization, it inherently needs money in order to raise money. So if we want to raise money, we would have to spend money also, and there are no quick fixes in resource mobilization. So definitely we it will take its own time, whether or not we want it to happen fast at our pace. It will happen when it has to happen, and we have to definitely make efforts in order to bring in the resources which are required for our organization. Now, there are certain elements of resource mobilization, which includes a relationship building, that is, relationship building within the organization and across the organizations, organizational management and development, how organization is managed, okay, and how these management practices are developed and overall organization is developed. And thirdly is the communicating processes, and the prospecting processes. So how the communication is carried out within and across the organization. Now relationship has to be built between the donors and between the donor and the agency. And it is basically the, you can say it is the basic point for resource mobilization. So until unless we share our willingness to work with that particular organization, whether we give our requirement that we would require this particular help from that particular organization, then definitely networking with that organization on resource mobilization, that definitely cannot start. Now there are certain steps that are required in resource mobilization planning. First of all, it is about reviewing the organizational strategic plan. Okay, so we see what we are planning to do in a given period of time. We list out the priorities based programs. Okay, what are the imminent problems that we are facing, and what are the priorities that we need to come up with. Determining resource mobilization targets, which include amount and the potential sources. So basically, what are the targets at which we are looking at? Identifying the constituencies and broadening the stakeholders. So what are the stakeholders? Who are the stakeholders who are involved in this? Developing key messages and planning the networking strategies, reviewing and selecting resource mobilization strategies. So, right from the stage of planning till the planning of implementation, and finally gearing up for resource mobilization, namely the implementation part. All these are some of the steps which are used in the resource mobilization planning. Now, why resource mobilization is important? We need resource mobilization to diversify and expand our resources, okay, to help us formulate an independent budget, okay, to decrease dependency on others, to be more self sufficient, to save ourselves the chance of becoming contractors of foreign donor agencies. Okay, now this is something which is important. We have to reduce our dependency on foreign donor agencies, because of the fact that most of these donor agencies, they come with a lot of pre you can say that these come with a lot of ifs and buts, and also some conditioning. So definitely our dependency on these donor agencies should be lessened. Then for sustainability of the organizations and the program, how we can make our program and organization more sustainable, and maximizing the use of domestic capital and skills, relying more on our own country capital, and to expand the deep relations with the stakeholder and community, in clean the image of the organization, okay, to run programs based on genuine needs of the community, and to disseminate the good practices of the organization, to basically improvise the good practices, to develop new thinking and challenging the old traditions that has existed till now, and finally to enhance the dignity of one's organizations by becoming more and more self-sufficient. Now, then there are certain principles of resource mobilization that we have to understand. First is that resource mobilization should be based on a robust situational analysis. We need to do a thorough situational analysis of basically why we are doing it, what we are doing it, what are the priorities involved, how we are going to implement, what would be the response. All of these things we need to understand. Then build consensus and collaboration. So consensus within the community and between all the stakeholders, that is important. And finally, collaboration for resource mobilization. This is also something which is important. Resources need to be prioritized. So we use the resources for a particular situation which is of utmost importance to us. Okay, so prioritizing the use of resources, resource mobilization activities should be meticulously planned. How we are mobilizing resources, the activities that we will be dealing with, okay, they should be meticulously planned. They should be planned in a very foolproof manner. And good relationship are the foundation of effective resource mobilization. So good relationship between agencies, within the agency, between the agencies and the clients, all these are very important when we are talking about effective resource mobilization. Transparency needs to be there. A transparency in reporting, in auditing, in accounting, all of these are very much important, which is definitely going to build confidence for resource mobilization between organizations and between the organization and the community or the target group. And publicizing successes, this is also very important, because until unless we publicize how much we have achieved or what success we have achieved till now, we will not be able to get sponsors for our programs. So we need to publicize our successes. Accountability should be there, because if we are being accountable to the people, if we are being accountable to the funding agency, then that is going to improve our credibility, for resource mobilization. Maximizing use of resources. So whatever resources are available to us for disposal, we have to maximize their use. So these are the various principles of resource mobilization. Then there are various types of resources that are available to us. First is the resource that is the money resource or the cash. Okay. Now, resource could be also in terms of technical assistance. It could be in terms of cooperation from different, from different sectors. It could be human resources, okay, like skills of people who have knowledge. It could be in terms of physical goods, okay, like the organization's activities, in terms of like machines or any other tools or any other physical goods could be there. It could be in terms of free services like medical facilities, other services, legal services that could be provided to us. All of these can be there. It could also be in terms of kinds, so these resources, it could differ and change as per the various phases of the project. So depending upon the phase of the project or our requirement for the project, these different sources of resources, the different types of resources can be we can get from different organizations. Now, here they have given an example of the different class of resources. So, physical goods is there, human resources are there. Then we do have other things like money in terms of grants and sponsorships, memberships, services and facilities in terms of tools, training facilities, technical cooperation. All of these are different types of resources that can be provided, or they can be utilized by our organization, and depending upon the different phases that we are of the programs. Then mechanism of resource mobilization. So there are certain mechanism also, like first we will submit the grant proposal. We give a proposal for getting grant from a particular organization. We can organize special events from which money can be received. Okay, it could be in terms of a fair or a festival, celebrate any occasion. It could be applying for donations from individual sources, from industries, from other unions, forums. It could be publishing the history of the organization. This can also have a great deal of impact, because it would be a good publicity for the organization. Okay, then expanding our relationships with the resource mobilization. We can also have include personal meetings to receive such resources. Membership campaigns can also be there. For example, if we are whatever mission we are organizing, we can have some membership campaigns to have more and more people work for our organization, and increase the overall resources, the human resources of the organization. Then going for more and more partnership with other organizations, raising the fee If we are providing any services, we can raise the fees. Internal mobilization of resources can be done. Okay, we can give halls or other equipments to people, and we can sell the training packages or software packages, and in this case we can mobilize internal resources. Also producing audio visual materials, this can also be an important resource mobilizer. Self contribution, whatever, maybe in whatever way we can contribute, we can do that. Details of contribution, this would help us in effectively, this is an effective mechanism for resource mobilization. It would help us in identifying possible sources of these help, whenever we are planning a resource mobilization in the future. Then mobilization of local resources, whatever locally available resources are available to us, we can use them. Constitution of resource mobilization committee, that would think of you know plans, that would plan such campaigns that would help us to how this mobilization can be done. So this committee can definitely work round the clock to plan such a mobilization spree. And programs based on genuine needs of the community, this can also be there. Advocacy, advocating for the organization, meeting with the people who have access to resources, organizing formal tea parties, coming up with a list of resource providers, or using case studies and success stories, and see how we can work on the same, along the same manner. Using media, enhancing the internal capacity of the organization, and providing advisors, provision of advisors and ambassadors, see how people can give suggestions to our organization. Income generation activities can also be done. A lot of organizations, NGOs, they go for income generating activities. Then contribution of employees can contribute to it. Any technical support fees that can be given, equipment on machinery, that can also be used to generate income. Training hall or space can be rented. Resource center can be developed, which can be used to sell various trainings. Study or research fees can be provided, can be charged. Then transportation fees, or video film, how they purchase painting from local artists and sell it with some other profit. This is we can also do that. Handicraft sale, sale of raw materials, personal contributions, a lot of things like measures of other measures of income generations, that may include constitutions of technical committee, then expansion of donor agencies, addressing the issue of transparencies. All of these are different manners, or are different ways in which resource can be uh, you know increased, or it can be mobilized. Now, who are the resource providers? Usually, they are organizations or institutions. They could be national governments. They can be business, or companies. Maybe MNCs. They could be individuals. Individual donors could be there. And there are certain factors that would motivate resource providers: the politics, the socio-political ideology, the social or the cultural context, the financial financial motivations could be there. Okay, like when people want to evade tax, or they want to get some kind of tax concessions. It could be in terms of religious considerations could be there. There could be some common thoughts of development, okay, why it is important. And generally one's culture of contributing to the social welfare. These are some of the factors that would increase the social the sorry the resource mobilization. Now, this was all about the first unit, where we have discussed about various, methods which are used in today's parlance, in today's context. And We will be meeting the next class in the next class, and we would be discussing more and more about the next topic, the second block of the same course. So, till tomorrow, thank you so much for joining me today, and we will meet tomorrow again. Thank you so much for the class, joining in the class.